Good morning to Alistair Cousins, who is in the studio with me today for the first hour. Thank you for being with me.
Good morning, Kels. Good to
How
be here.
How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very excited about Christmas is the main thing. I've got 3 kids. So yeah, very excited about Christmas.
Brilliant. And what is the highlight of Christmas for you?
I think we've got 3 kids that are sort of a varying range of 16 down to 8. So the 8-year-old's very excited. For this first time, we've done Elf on the Shelf, which has been my responsibility. So
Wow.
yes. So yes, I'm sort of hoping they're not listening, but you know, yeah. So it's that kind of thing. It's having an 8-year-old that keeps the energy up in the household.
That's lovely, isn't it? We had Elf on the Shelf and my dog ate it. That was quite tragic, actually. But yeah,
traumatic Christmas.
It's a magical time of year, isn't it? Christmas,
It is. Yes.
Spending it with your family, who I actually know well. So we will give them a shout out at some point. But today is all about you, Alistair. We're not talking about them for now. Tell me, because you've obviously set up your own business recently. You're going through a transitional phase in business, and I imagine, which we'll touch on as well, as a person, because it's a big deal, isn't it, coming out of a career and moving into something independently. But going way back when you were at school, what did you love the most? Not what did you want to be, but what did you love most about school?
Simply sport and languages. I was quite good at a lot of sports. I was okay at sports, and then I had an affinity for languages. So I still speak French.
Do you?
When I can, yeah. And I spoke Spanish, and I was lucky enough to live in Bordeaux for a year as part of my degree. So those were my 2 loves, and obviously naturally I've ended up in IT. So I'm not quite sure how that happened, but yeah, that was my passion when I was younger.
Wow, that's amazing. I did not know this. My daughter actually is really into languages. French being her favourite. So say something in French, anything.
Bonjour. That's about it. Yeah. So my wife tries to get me to speak French, but probably for ulterior motives. But my daughter's learning it actually at GCSE. She's doing French at GCSE. So
that must be really handy for her.
She seems to be quite good at it. I'm not sure she's overly keen to pursue it at A level, which is a bit of a disappointment for me. But I have to go with her gut. So yeah.
What was it about languages that you loved so much?
I have absolutely no idea. There's no history of it in the family. I just had, I think, a small ability to speak the language, have a good accent. I spent quite a bit of time. I spent a bit of time when I was 16 in France, and then when I was at university, my parents, my sister were in the forces. Absolutely no intention to follow them. So I think I just had an affinity for languages and the arts and sport. So yeah, I just fell into it.
What was your favourite sport?
So I'm a massive cricket fan. I'm exhausted because I've watched the awful Ashes in the last few weeks, but I'm a huge cricket fan, as Julia is, my wife, as well. The kids play it. My daughter scores for Penn Street. I'm captain at Penn Street Cricket Club. So yeah, cricket's the big passion, but I'm a massive Liverpool fan as well. And the boys are following in my footsteps.
So sport still plays heavily. So all these things are important outside of work, aren't they? So when you left school and you went into your first career, what was that, Alistair? So you went to uni, and then following your university days, where did your career start to take you?
So I left university and went straight into a desktop support IT role down in Sussex, more out of necessity than desire, probably at that point. I think, like a lot of people, ended up working in various desktop support jobs in IT, and then moved into retail. So I've been lucky enough to work in a couple of jobs where language has been important. So I worked at the Disney store, where we had stores in France, so I had the opportunity to speak the language. But generally speaking, IT was just something I fell into because I needed to get out of bed when I was probably 21, 22 and get a job. So it was more out of necessity than anything else. And
what areas of IT did you start with?
So I was supporting a quite niche bit of software that opticians ran, so independent opticians around the country, and I was then a field engineer helping them. I ended up working in retail, sort of tills and, just supporting. So I worked at the perfume shop where I met my wife when we both worked at the perfume shop in High Wycombe, and then ended up sort of head of IT for eventually Disney Store and then Gale's Bakery more recently. So, yeah.
And did you enjoy being part of the corporate? Because it's a big thing, isn't it? When you're part of a corporate job, as much as you love your job, there are certain parts of you that are stripped away in that environment, aren't there? I'd imagine, where you can't maybe have the freedom to tap into the skills that you've got.
I think there's the corporate world. I think when you look back with hindsight, you probably think I probably stayed in the corporate world a bit too long. I think you do get to a point where you want a bit more of an impact. So the bigger the organisation, the smaller the impact to a certain extent. If I look back at the Disney days and think, well, actually, that's such a huge engine and a huge corporate that the impact I had as an individual was and as a team was quite small. But yeah, I think I probably was glad to leave the corporate world is probably the best way I can put it. I think I enjoyed the jobs I had. But looking back where we are now in December 2025, I think I'm in a much better place not being in the corporate world.
One thing you said there, I'm going to play a track in a minute actually, and we can dedicate this to whoever you may wish, but is what I want to come back to after this is you said about making an impact. So when you're in that big environment, is what I'm hearing is that it's really important for you to make an impact individually in this world, doing something that's important in a way that you can get that across.
Absolutely. I think the thing you realise when you come to a fork in the road is that the impact you can have as an individual, the way I've set up my business now, is significant, and it's not purely driven by benefits and salary and making sure that at that point at 25, 30, you're going to be head of IT, you're going to be a CIO, you're going to get to the top of the tree. This is about knowing what I'm good at, helping people that need support, and making sure that they get the support of someone that's got the experience. And I think there's a lot of unknowns out there.
There definitely are. We will come on to that. We're going to play Duran Duran, Ordinary World. Why this track, Alistair?
So I'm not a massive Duran Duran fan, but my wife is. My wife is a huge Duran Duran fan, and I was going to put The Chauffeur on, but I thought I'd go for this one instead. So this is dedicated to my wife, Julia.
Oh, Julia, this one is for you. That one was for you, Jules, if you're listening. I am in the studio today with Alistair Cousins. He is a local. We didn't actually touch on local. I know you're local, but I took it for granted that people knew. Let's just backtrack, Alistair, if you don't mind. So have you always lived in and around this area?
I have not. I was... Well, way back when I was born in Gibraltar, funnily enough.
Were you?
That was my, not for long. And then my dad was in the forces, so we moved around a lot. So we were... Yeah, Sussex, Cambridgeshire, Hampshire, Dorset, that kind of thing. And then we settled. Julia and I got together. We settled in, she was living in Chesham, Amersham. Her mum lived in Chartridge, and we settled in Homer Green and have been there since my daughter was born. So February 2009. Oh,
wow. So prior to meeting the lovely Jules, you were not Buckinghamshire based?
No, I was Surrey-based. I went to university at Royal Holloway in Egham. I lived there for Englefield Green for, I don't know, another 10, 15 years after that. And then I came to the wares of Buckinghamshire, yeah.
Oh, well, we're lucky to have you. But you are working locally now as well, aren't you? Which is what we're going to come on to.
Yes, indeed.
Because you've set up your own business. So we shared a little bit before. So if you've just joined us, you can listen again and go back marlowfm.co.uk, listen again, select Good Morning Marlow and choose today's date, which is only 2 days before Christmas, 23rd of December. But Alistair, you left the corporate world. You made the jump to set up your own business. Now, if you don't mind, before we come on to that, that's quite a big leap, isn't it?
Yeah, it was more by accident than by design, if I'm brutally honest. I lost a couple of jobs within the space of 6 months from September 2024 to April this year. And the job market, especially in IT, I think in the senior market in IT is hard at the moment. It's pretty brutal. There's not a huge amount out there. So as I sort of navigated the Easter months and playing a lot of cricket, which possibly was a distraction too many for me at that point, but it was a good summer, and I then got to the end of the summer and I had to sort of reframe where I'd been at. I felt losing 2 jobs in 6 months was quite a hard lesson. And it took me till about the end of the summer to really reframe that into a positive thing. I felt quite...
Can you tell me how that felt? Because it's not easy in this world, is it, for us all? And not many people really talk about what's happening out there. I mean, you're doing amazing things. You've set up your own business, and we are going to come on to that. But to go through what that feeling of, rejection and hurt, we take things personally and label it as something that could possibly be us. But we know that's not it. I mean, I'd like to say these jobs you didn't get were like brilliant, great. They have recorrected you, haven't they? But how did that feel for you, Alistair, particularly as a man in this world? There's a lot of pressure on men to show up and provide and be strong and all these things. But tell me how you really felt in that time.
So September 2024 came out of the blue, and it was a bit of a hammer blow. It did take me quite a while, but I did think I would, and I did get a job towards the end of November, December to start in January 25. So it was a fairly short period of adjustment. So I kind of was fairly confident I'd get back into the market. The market was not too bad at that point from my point of view. And then I lost the second job within about 3-4 months, both for very different reasons that I won't go into. But the second one, I felt like I probably brought baggage from the first one with me, and it didn't help me navigate that job successfully. And then I probably, you're right. There is an expectation, especially as sort of, I guess the horrible phrase, the main breadwinner. I thought I would sleepwalk back into a job. I genuinely had the confidence to do that, and as the months passed, the confidence dropped, and the feelings of being a bit of a failure kind of kept creeping in, and that took a long time to kind of reframe into something positive, which eventually I've done towards the end of this year, but it's taken a long time.
But I mean, hats off to you, because to actually do that work, there are a lot of people out there and probably listening that are struggling in either wanting to change career, not happy in the work they do, needing to do something different, and having these same feelings that you're sharing here. So thank you firstly for that. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because we have to feel these difficult things to be able to reframe and get back on that right path, essentially, to walk forward. So can you share anything, small with anyone listening, that what things you did to move through those feelings of failure to get your confidence back after going through a difficult time?
Having 3 kids helps.
Yeah.
Hugely, because they are largely unaffected by things like that. They're very one-dimensional. They're very much about the present day, and that was kind of quite to remember that they are they're feeling the current, the present, and to be in the present was huge. I did a lot of work with my wife in terms of, she's very good at looking at, she runs her own business, so she's already been through that pace. She's left the corporate world. She runs her own business locally, so she was very important. But I was a fairly hard nut to crack, because I'm fairly stubborn at the best of times. So and also being told that you're not doing things the right way is always a difficult lesson to hear. I also did a bit of work with a coach locally that I was fortunate enough to work with, and she was excellent at reframing what I thought was a failure into. One of the phrases that sticks with me today is done, not perfect. I was all about getting the perfect job, and actually I wasn't looking at what I was doing that was okay, that was good enough. So that was all of those things put together eventually got me back into a better place.
Because all those qualities are still there, aren't they? All those skills, all the things you've built up. And like you said right back at the start of this interview here, you want to connect with the people, make a difference. Whereas the bigger the platform, essentially, the less significant you become in the connection, in the human connection with the people that need the help. And there are a lot of people out there in life that need help with all sorts of things, that don't know how to access it. They don't feel safe or comfortable to. They can't see the person that they're talking to, and it's really difficult, and it's hard times out there. So we need more independent connection generally.
Yeah, I definitely think that's probably one of my strengths. I don't know if I'm phrasing this the right way, but I was always told I wasn't a typical IT geek, that I would make it relatively accessible. And I've learnt more over the last 10 or 15 years with a creative family, with a creative wife, to not bamboozle with acronyms, to not bamboozle with technology, and actually to make it even more accessible than possible. And the kids, to a certain extent as well, they as much as they know technology, they're very, very narrow in what they know. So I think human connection is massive. I think people pick up the phone and want to speak to somebody who A is available, and B is not going to look down their noses at them and make technology inaccessible. That's kind of what I'm all about. I'm all about that kind of, moving away from the bots. Yes, we're in a very digital world, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't retain the human at the center of it.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, your business is in IT, which we're going to come on to, but an AI is very much a scary thing that's taking over. I mean, there are benefits, don't get me wrong, it can be amazing, but one thing that AI cannot take from us is human connection, you know, just physical contact, people actually speaking, and you do gain so much from that, don't you, in those spaces. And just to be able to ask, because a lot of people don't want to reach out for help with anything. I mean, there are a lot of people, my mum included actually, in an IT situation, there's so much help that she would probably want to have, but she wouldn't know where to go, what to do, think that there's even a way forward with these basic things, because people are scared that they look silly or that they should know these things, and we just don't.
Yeah, I think I've had a couple of recent examples of family. I mean, my mum's eventually, nearly at the age of 80, of knowing that I'm the first port of call. It's taken a while, but we have situations where, people make mistakes. And, the irony of AI being all about non-humans is that humans are still the ones that are the vulnerable ones at the center of all of this. It's cybersecurity, anything. It's the humans that click on the links generally. But I had a situation recently where a family member was, for right or wrong, was duped into a kind of, a remote connection from someone, and, someone had access to their computer, and I had to, resolve that. And actually it's the human part of that caused the problem in the first place. But they didn't contact me because they were too embarrassed, I think, or felt like they'd made a mistake and actually should have come to me in the first place, or should have gone to somebody in the first place. So I think there's always this education piece going on. And that's difficult because once you've clicked it, it's almost too late. So
I know. So tell us, Alistair, because to be honest, on first impressions, I would not have thought you were in IT. You're not the usual IT geek. You're very friendly and personable, a lot of depth, wonderful human being. So this business and working with you, I can only imagine for anyone listening that needs IT help, will be an absolute pleasure. But tell us the business, your websites, what you do. We'll play a track and then we can come back and dive into that. But just what is it that you do and how can people find you?
So there are two. I set up two a few months ago. One is a kind of consulting business. This is what you would call a fractional. I think in the old days it was just an IT consultant. Now it's used a fractional word, where I can help small businesses. A lot of people who run their own IT, so founder-led IT-run businesses, where they just haven't got the time to run their IT anymore, and it's taken away from their day jobs, and I can pick up that slack. So. Probably not, medium-sized or large businesses because they've already got an IT provision. But anywhere that's got, 2 or 3 employees up to 15, 20, where they're in that sweet spot of they just know they need to move away from it. So that's one part of the business, and that's anything from information security and data protection and the kind of more businessy part of IT. The other one is the computing business, which is more about local support. So I've helped people recently with data recoveries and with laptop support, setting up new laptops, putting in, making an old laptop brand new kind of thing, but by spending 50 quid, all those kind of things that people wouldn't know where to turn. Trying to help people not go out and just buy a new laptop for 400 quid, especially at this time of year. So yeah, those are the two businesses.
And the websites, can I read them out here?
Yes, of course.
So the first one is ASC Consulting, asc-consulting.co.uk, and the second is asc-computing.co.uk. So take a note of those. We're going to play another track. We're going to play a bit of Goo Goo Dolls. Didn't have your first choice, which we're going to touch on. Tell me what the first choice of Goo Goo Dolls was, Alistair.
Well, so the first choice was Without You Here, which was our first dance at our wedding back in 2016. But Goo Goo Dolls is a very, very important band to us as a couple.
Oh, so we're going to go with Iris. So sorry, Jules, the first choice was in there, but unfortunately can't be played. So this one is for you both. We've been talking about you, your journey, your sort of previous career, and now how you're moving that into how you can connect with and be of service, really, to physical people and have that connection so that you know that you're really helping, because it's a struggle. I have no clue with IT. I can move these buttons, that's about it. So what does the business look like? You've got two, computing and consulting. If someone was to contact you that's listening, what kind of things could they come to you for? What sort of things that we might not think about? Can you share a little bit about the business and what you're going to be offering? So
the consulting side of things is a bit more business oriented. So that's a bit more about Microsoft licensing and on a bigger scale, things like email security, where people are getting spam and phishing and all those kinds of things, and education, continuous improvement around that. The computing side is a bit more someone's got a problem. I've done a couple of data recoveries recently where I think a neighbour of mine's father passed away, and there were photos on an old computer. They couldn't get access to it, so I was able to take all of that off and give it back to them. That was a job I did a long time ago. I did data recovery for a living, so I know what I'm doing on that front. Anything from data protection, privacy policies on websites, all that. Data protection is a fairly big part of what we do. I work with another consultant in the background on that. But really, I mean, the scope is huge. The scope is whatever you want us to look at, we can look at. I was fixing an Outlook problem for someone on Friday last week. Equally, I can look at, information security policies at the same time. So the scope is big. There isn't a huge amount I won't look at or know somebody that can help. Certainly, that's not just me. There's other people in the background that do the same, similar things.
So there's no problem too small, is there really?
No, and I think it's trying to get the message across that if you don't know, asking is the next step. Whether it's my mother or my father-in-law, whether it's businesses, and I think a lot of people just bumble along and hope that everything's going to be okay. And I do a lot of LinkedIn posts about big cyber hacks. Things that everyone thinks aren't going to affect them, but actually, small businesses are absolutely rife for this kind of thing because it's low-level stuff that's never really going to get investigated. And it will wipe you out as a small business. So there are certain things we can put in place. Like I said, the phrase of done, not perfect is always a good start because there are gaps that we can plug. And some of this stuff doesn't cost any money. That's the other part. It doesn't cost us, it's a bit of consultancy and a bit of me doing and knowing what I'm doing, having the confidence to know what I'm doing. But it doesn't cost a huge amount of money to sometimes get these gaps filled.
It's important, isn't it? Because I think is what's really nice about you coming on to talk to me today locally is I know myself, it's like, where would you go to trust someone? Because people have got loads of personal data, historic things, loads of memories, photos, information. So to allow someone to come into that space, it's almost like letting someone into your home, isn't it, essentially?
Yeah, there's a lot of trust involved, whether I'm working for businesses or individuals. I mean, often with businesses, I have to remote into their systems to be able to support them because they're not necessarily based in the UK. So or if managing their Microsoft environment, I have to be some kind of admin at that point because I can't do the job without it. So there is a level of trust, but obviously those agreements are put in place, and we make sure that anything like that is covered off through, the written word, and we make sure that there's liability and accountability. But generally speaking, yeah, there's a huge amount of trust. But people know that if someone's giving me a hard drive with their family's photos on it, then that level of trust is kind of implicit. So.
Yeah, exactly. And this is all under the computing side, isn't it? So if you've got a question or something really small, I mean, just to reach out and have a conversation with you or drop you an email, it's not going to cost anything at all, is it? It's just that initial engagement. And then if you can help, obviously, you take it from there. But I think it's so important to have these services. I mean, how far in the area do you cover, Alistair? Like, is it the Buckinghamshire, like this Holmer Green, more like this area you'll cover, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I mean, locally, it would have to be relatively close because that's a much more physical kind of transaction. Or, I think when you're supporting businesses, it can be, I mean, I support people in Portugal and I support people in Dorset in Scotland. But I think when you're looking at, I've got a hard drive that's got a problem with it, I think it has to be relatively local. I haven't really put a restriction on radius, but generally speaking, I'm looking at kind of Buckinghamshire at the moment. But
a lot of people will work remotely anyway, and you can do that, can't you? So that service. But if there's anyone listening, I'm just thinking about someone like my mum, for example, who likes to see a physical person. It's quite nice, isn't it, for you to just build that initial bit of trust. But generally, it would be remotely. And with the consulting, tell me what that looks like.
Well, so the consulting is anything from helping people navigate, or maybe not growing at that point and scaling up, but getting to the point of understanding their licensing. Maybe they've had licensing for 10, 15 years, but they're on the wrong license. They're not actually getting bang for their buck, or they could be, it's a bit like anyone shopping around for car insurance or mobile phone deals. You just kind of get stuck in a rut and you don't necessarily ask the right question. And I can come in and kind of go, well, I think you're paying for a product that you don't need. You could use this one and it's free of charge, or it's a lot cheaper. So there's a few things on that front, but a lot of that's around Windows updates, making sure that people are, updating their computers as often as possible, and I can get eyes and ears on that rather than just leaving it to the user. Anything from making sure that their systems are as bulletproof as they can be. Now, I would always be clear that there isn't there's never going to be a perfect scenario where you're going to be better than the people out there that are trying to get into your system. That doesn't happen. But we can be as good as we can be with the tools that we have at our disposal.
I think I need a bit of a clear up. My laptop is a complete mess. I don't know what's going on with it. I imagine there's a lot of people out there like me, you know, with all these unread emails, just wasting endless amounts of space on my laptop. I don't know where anything is. Nothing's in any order. I mean, my laptop is chaos.
We did have that conversation, didn't we, a few weeks ago?
We did. So could you help people with that? So just say someone, you know, like me, where, you know, time is an issue, isn't it? If you're running a family and you're, you know, looking after children, doing multiple things, and everything is kind of there, but it's in a bit of a mess. I mean, essentially, by getting the help from someone like you, Alistair, you could save money, because I'm pretty sure that I am spending on all different sorts of things annually, monthly. I don't know what I'm doing. So can you help people almost do an overview service of what everything looks like to get them back on the sort of a clear blank canvas, really, so that they're more organised and up to date?
Yeah, it'd be the same for a small business versus an individual. You go in and do a systems audit, effectively. You go in and kind of go, well, I need to understand your landscape to understand how you operate, whether you need X, Y, and Z. And it's the same for individuals. It's the same for us when we look at our TV subscriptions to a certain extent as well. It's that kind of, you just pile on. I can't necessarily help people organise their own lives, but I can make the systems they use to do that as quick as possible. The example with my father-in-law, where the laptop he gave me was incredibly slow. He would have just gone out and bought a £400 laptop, but for 50 quid you can chuck it. I can clone a hard drive, put it in, and suddenly he's up and running, and it's like a new laptop. So there are things you can do, but generally speaking, it's giving people the confidence and knowing that there's someone to kind of talk to, that they know what they're doing.
Thank you, Alistair. I mean, I'm going to come back to you in a second, but just sort of rounding off on your businesses here. So if people want to get in touch, you can visit both websites. We've got ACS Consulting and ACS Computing. ASC. God, that would be helpful, wouldn't it?
That might be someone else's business.
ASC-Consulting and ASC-Computing. And I would assume that they would just initially reach out for a friendly conversation, email, phone call, and then you would just discuss their needs with them. Nothing is too small. Just if you're listening today, just reach out, and then you'll just go from there and advise them going forward. Yeah,
100%. Email, phone. My phone number, conveniently, completely by accident, has got a 999 at the end of it. So, you know, in case you want tech to be the fourth emergency service. But yeah, anything. Email, WhatsApp, message, not a problem at all. I can help with pretty much everything that anyone asks me.
So all details are available. Alistair, thank you for sharing about your business, because I do think it's important that, you know, locally, and that's what I love about being on here, that we share what people are doing, because I think there are so many people that don't really have the time or space to just talk about what they're doing, and people don't know, do they? How do we know anything if we're not sharing it? That's why we need to keep sharing our stories, sharing in spaces, and by enabling this connection and even the work that you're doing, it's really helping people sort of move things along in a more manageable way that they just don't think is possible.
Yeah, I think there's trying to demystify the, you know, people either actively put their heads in the sand and say it's not going to be them, it's not going to be us that get, you know, compromised or X, Y, and Z, and trying to give IT a better name, because I think technology gets a pretty, like you said, AI, there's some great bits to it, but there's some really dark bits to any kind of technology, and I think people think it's a blocker. Someone called me the other day and said that they had the IT fear, and it's like, it doesn't, I understand why, but I guess my job is to break that down and try and make it as painless for people as possible and almost as invisible as possible.
Yeah, and I'm sure you will. So before I have to let you go, because we're going to play you out with, did we go for Coldplay? Is that what we chose? Fix You?
Why not? It's my younger son's favourite, so why not?
So we'll play that one, but we've got a couple of minutes left. So just back to you and Christmas. What are your plans, Alistair? What are you going to be doing over the festive season? Not working, I hope.
No, not working. We're hosting on Christmas Day. So I have my family up with us on Christmas Day, which will be great. Then on Boxing Day we have the traditional Penn Street. We play cricket, actually, bizarrely, on the Common at Penn Street. Then we effectively wait for the pub to open and go and have a couple of drinks. And then we're up to York to see the rest of the family over the New Year.
That'll be nice.
So it will be, the kids are super excited. We were actually at Battersea Power Station yesterday, ice skating, just as a kind of, I'd recommend that to anybody. It was fantastic. It was a great day out. So yeah, that was our kind of Christmas started properly yesterday. So very excited.
That's lovely. Tell me what about cricket it is that you love so much.
Good question. I think I was born with an understanding of it, because not everyone understands it, or doesn't want to, because it is very long. It's not many games you go play 5 days and don't get a result. But also, I've always had an affinity to playing it. I think it helps when you're okay at it. And I ended up being okay at it at school. I played it all the way through university. I still play it today. In fact, like I said, I'm captain up at Penn Street, so I managed to squeeze in 22 games last year. So I just I love the game. I think it's the archetypal English summer game, and we were lucky enough in the summer to have an incredible batch of weather that we could play as much as possible. So it's in my blood. And my 2 boys play it, and my daughter scores. So it's pretty much 4 out of 5 of us in the house are actively out on a Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, it's part of me.
It's bringing people together as well, and to play it on Boxing Day. There are a lot of people that turn up on Boxing Day.
We had a great turnout last year, hopefully the same again, 40, 50 people on the con. We've got a really growing junior section there. We doubled the junior section last year. So the club is really, where a lot of other clubs are struggling, we are really growing. Our senior section is strong, our junior section is growing. There are 2 grounds in Penn Street that, now we kind of look after both of them. My wife is going to be actively involved in potentially the birth of women's cricket up at Penn Street as well. So I think there's I think as a community, it was probably the bit that held me together over the summer. When I did my speech at the dinner, I said it was hugely important to me having A, a distraction, but B, also the community to work with. And they're a great bunch. They're a great bunch of people.
I think it's important, isn't it? Like you say, with going through that transitional phase and the difficulty and the pressures in life that we have to go through, and you were setting up this new business, it's a real different shift in sort of how you're used to things looking. To have those fundamental things that really keep you grounded, keep you connected, and have that sense of community is so important.
Yeah, my wife says I'm a different person if I don't go for a run, for example, but she would probably argue that we watch too much sport in the house. The kids are always watching football, or there's rugby on, or cricket. But yeah, for me, it's the constant that I've had for the last 45 years of my life, and I think I'm exhausted from watching the Ashes, because I was watching that till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So clearly, I'm obsessed. But yeah, for me, it's everything.
Oh, Alistair, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, and I wish you so much luck with your new business. Anyone that's listening, do reach out. Any problem, no, nothing is too small. Just ask the question and Alistair will be able to help you. But any shout out, should we do a shout out before we play Coldplay to your whole wonderful, beautiful family?
So so I've got 3 children. Alfie's the youngest, Sam's the middle one, and Tilly's the eldest. And shout out to them, and also to my wife, Jules.